Welcome back, Nuggets, to another Junkworld Devlog. I really wanted to learn how to program, so I started working on a 3D action puzzle platformer in Unity. So far, we've made a pretty decent character controller, we implemented combat, and made this amazing duck. However, a 3D action platformer wouldn't be an action platformer without some action. Although, that's pretty cool. But you know what would be even cooler? Now, some might say I am doing this all wrong, but piece by piece while I'm prototyping new features, it's becoming more and more clear what the game wants to be. I know it comes at the cost of not knowing the end result, a lot of uncertainties, and making it difficult to talk about the game. But that's also what makes it fun. I hope you and I can figure this out together. And I must admit, it's kind of liberating not having a set 100% clear vision of what I'm creating. I'm feeling free, creatively challenged, and I love solving the design problems this process is throwing at me. After we implemented combat in the previous devlog, we needed something for the player to battle, but what could it be? Let me introduce you to a piece of backstory from the world of Junkworld.
It was only a matter of time until the needs of our machines no longer aligned with those of us. Decades of war followed. We had pushed technology too far. But it seems with intelligence, artificial or not, comes hubris. Machines started fighting amongst themselves, and one created a powerful virus to dominate the others. But it could not control the virus, which brought an end to the war. All that reminds us today are the mindless machines roaming what's left of our planet.
A world overflowing with sentient killer robots created by super powerful AIs? Okay, why not? I have always had a thing for spider tanks. I don't know why, but I think it has something to do with Ghost in the Shell.
No, not that one. So I decided for the very first enemy I would make a spider tank. I jumped into Blender and modeled the first thing that came to mind, made a simple rig for it, made some animations, and started implementing it in the game.
At this point, I had no idea what the behavior of the spider tank should be or would be, and I sure did not know it would end up a bullet hell. But as I always say, if you don't know where to start, just start anywhere.
Okay then, let's start. Using Unity's built-in NavMesh agent system, I made the tank walk around from one random place to another random place. Next up, I made it follow the player's position like a turret and made it fire, but it was way too big and it shot right over Carly's head. So to fix this, I made the tank dock before firing.
Slowly but surely it was starting to look better, but my code started to look worse. Then I remembered I learned how to program a state machine a few devlogs back, and I figured, wait a minute, this could be the solution that I need. By the way, if you want to know more about state machines, what they are, how to implement them, and how to use them, and how they can turn your code from a hot mess into a sleek oiled machine, check out this video linked somewhere here. And so that's what I did, and after just a few hours I had a working enemy which would walk to a random place, charge for a few seconds, follow you around like a turret, fire at you, and then cool down for a second, and then repeat its cycle.
But something just didn't feel right. The more I looked at it, the less I liked it. It's just not the aesthetic that I envisioned Junkworld to have. It wasn't the fact it was looking too sci-fi. Mind you, the enemies in Junkworld are not made of junk. They are the remnants of a sophisticated AI uprising who destroyed the planet. They might be old, but they certainly aren't junk. At least, not yet. No, it was looking too sleek, too slender. It was missing some of that badunkadunk. And so I added the chunk.
I made the design more compact, more chunky, more blocky, more weighty, if that's a word. And I ended up with a half-decent design that I like to call the Chunker. I had a ton of fun tweaking the behavior of the Chunkers when I noticed this interesting interaction between player and enemy. As a player, you only have a melee weapon, which makes sense in my world. If I was a super sophisticated killer AI, the first thing I would do is make my minions bulletproof. So it only makes sense that the people of Carly's world would have to resort to a more hands-on approach of killing their foes. Nevertheless, I want most enemies to be ranged attackers, so this creates a really interesting push and pull between player and foe.
This is when I realized adding more bullet hell-like elements would really spice up combat. From there, I tweaked the Chunkers to damage you when they walk around, making you wait for it to charge or cool down. I also added this bullet circle to signal when it would start or stop firing, and I made this awesome charging LED thing.
Alas, but with life must come death.
Carly, our main character, can do a lot of things, but dying wasn't one of them. So I jumped into Blender, whipped up a death animation, and implemented a simple death and respawn loop.
Awesome. But to be honest, I spend a little bit too much time on the Chunkers. I made a somewhat final design without proper playtesting, but I must admit I got a little bit sick and tired of looking at all these grey cubes all the time. But I must resist. I know looking at all these grey cubes, planes, blocks and things isn't the nicest, but polishing and putting time into making things final at this stage of development is frankly probably just a waste of time. So please bear with me through a couple of more stages of programmer art before we add that sweet, sweet sparkle. By the way, if you can appreciate some of that fine programmer art, hit that subscribe button with your keyboard, hit that like button, as it really helps the channel out. But to cheer you up, let me ask you a question. What is better than one enemy? That's right, nuggets.
What? No, more enemies!
In its current state, the Chunker would be one of the bigger enemies, and so I needed something small, fast, and agile to oppose it.
Yeah, maybe not like that though.
After some careful rework, the Blast Bot was born. It's a shoot, chase, shoot kind of enemy which also runs away from you when you chase after it. I'm not yet fully happy with it, but it does force a player to move around the battlefield.
Lastly, I also wanted something with a little bit more flair. And nothing does flair better than a homing missile launcher.
Making the missiles proved a little more challenging than I initially thought, but I figured out I would have to launch the rocket straight up into the air before letting it chase the player. This was to prevent the missiles from flying too close to the ground or hitting the ground right away. Finally, I wanted the enemies to drop some loot. So whenever an enemy dies, it randomly drops an amount of loot, which after a short animation is automatically picked up by the player.
Finally, putting all of this together is already damn fun. So what's next? If we look at the scoreboard for our 3D action puzzle platformer, we got the 3D platformer part tackled. We've got the action part tackled. So all that's left now is the puzzle portion. So we'll see you in about a year. Thanks, Nuggets. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment, as it really helps the channel out and helps make Junkworld the best game possible. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.